March 5th, 10th, 1944, 0630 hours. Emirau Island, Bismarck Archipelago. The first waves crash against volcanic black sand as dawn breaks over a pristine jungle island that has never known the sound of engines. Within 48 hours, this untouched paradise will host a fully operational airfield capable of launching 75 combat aircraft. The Japanese High Command, watching from aerial reconnaissance, will refuse to believe their own intelligence reports. What they're witnessing defies everything they understand about military engineering and construction logistics. Lieutenant Commander Joseph Bull Seabolt stands waist-deep in surf, directing the organized chaos of an amphibious landing unlike any in military history. Behind him, LSTs disgorge not infantry, but bulldozers, not tanks, but graders, not artillery, but cement mixers. The men storming this beach carry wrenches instead of rifles, surveying equipment instead of machine guns. They are the United States Navy Construction Battalions, the Seabees. They are about to perform a miracle that will change the course of the Pacific War. The sound is deafening. Chainsaws scream through hardwood trees that have stood for centuries. Bulldozers with specially reinforced blades tear through jungle undergrowth at a pace that seems impossible. Coral is blasted, graded, and compacted in a continuous industrial symphony. Japanese observers, hidden in the hills, watch with mounting disbelief. According to their own military engineering manuals, what they're witnessing should take 6 months with 5,000 men. The Americans are doing it with 1,200 men in 2 days. Seabolt checks his watch. 6 hours since the first boat touched sand. Already, 400 yards of jungle have been cleared, and the rough outline of a runway is visible from the air. His men work in shifts that blur together, 12 hours on, 4 hours off, then back to it. They work through tropical downpours that turn the construction site into a sea of red mud. They work through air raid warnings, sometimes not even bothering to seek cover, knowing that every minute of delay means another Marine or soldier fighting without air support somewhere else in the vast Pacific theater. The birth of speed to understand the miracle unfolding on Emirau Island. We must go back 3 years to a desperate moment when America stood on the brink of losing the Pacific War before it truly began. December 1941, Pearl Harbor lies in ruins. The Philippines are falling. Wake Island's defenders fight their last battle. Japanese forces sweep across the Pacific like a tidal wave, and the United States Navy faces a terrifying reality. Their traditional construction approach, civilian contractors working at a measured pace will lose them the war. Rear Admiral Ben Moriel sees the problem with crystal clarity. A civil engineer before the war, Morel understands that modern warfare moves at the speed of machinery, not paperwork. Civilian construction crews can't operate in combat zones. They can't carry weapons. They can't be ordered to stay under fire. And the Navy's small contingent of civil engineer corps officers, while skilled, number only a few hundred men to cover the entire Pacific Ocean. Morel's solution is radical. Create military construction battalions that can fight if necessary, but whose primary weapon is the bulldozer, men who can read blueprints and fire rifles. Engineers who understand that a runway built in 2 days is worth more than a perfect runway built in 2 months. The Navy approves his plan on December 28, 1941, just 3 weeks after Pearl Harbor, and the race begins. The first recruits are construction workers, lumberjacks, miners, and oil riggers. Men who know dirt and concrete and steel. The average age is 37 ancient by military standards, where most combat troops are barely 20. These are men with families, mortgages, and established careers who volunteer to leave everything behind. They are given 3 weeks of basic military training, just enough to shoot straight and follow. Orders then shipped immediately to the Pacific with one simple instruction: build faster than the enemy can destroy. The Japanese perspective in Tokyo, Imperial General Headquarters studies reports from their Pacific commanders with growing concern. The Americans are building airfields at a rate that seems physically impossible. On Guadalcanal, Japanese reconnaissance flights photograph a new airfield that wasn't there a week ago. On Espiritu Santo, a major base complex springs up in less than a month. On New Georgia, runways appear as if conjured from thin air. Colonel Takeo Yamada, chief of the Imperial Army's Engineering Corps, examines photographs spread across his desk. His calculations, done meticulously according to Japanese engineering standards, show that the Americans are constructing facilities at 5 to 10 times the speed of Japanese construction units. He writes in his official report, Either American engineering capabilities exceed our understanding of physics and logistics, or these photographs represent multiple months of work falsely attributed to shorter time frames for propaganda purposes. Yamada cannot accept the truth that the Americans have industrialized warfare itself. Japanese construction methods rely on hand labor, precision, and time. A Japanese engineer would carefully survey land, create detailed plans, and methodically build according to exact specifications. The process is thorough, professional, and fatally slow. The Seabees operate on completely different principles. Their philosophy is simple. Good enough today beats perfect tomorrow. They don't survey for weeks. They eyeball it and start grading. They don't wait for concrete. They compact coral and volcanic rock into runways that can handle fully loaded bombers. They don't build barracks. They erect prefabricated Quonset huts in hours. Speed isn't everything. It's the only thing. Emirau, hour by hour, back on Emirau Island, the construction accelerates beyond even Seabolt's optimistic projections. By noon on the first day, the main runway outline is completely cleared. Seabees operate in specialized teams, each with a specific mission choreographed to maximize efficiency. The demolition teams move first, blasting through coral outcroppings and large rock formations. They use explosives with precision born from experience, just enough to fracture the obstacle, not so much that it creates a crater requiring additional work. Behind them, the bulldozer operators, the most skilled men in any Seabee battalion, push debris to the sides, creating the rough runway surface. Then come the grader operators, smoothing and leveling the surface to within inches of perfect. They work by feel as much as measurement, their machines extensions of their own body. Behind them, sheep's foot rollers and heavy compactors drive back and forth in endless patterns, compressing crushed coral and volcanic soil into a surface hard as concrete. Water trucks follow, spraying the surface to aid compaction and keep dust down. The dust is tremendous clouds of red and black that coat every man, every machine, every surface. The Seabees work in masks, their faces streaked with mud and sweat, looking like warriors from some industrial hell. Electrician teams, string communications wire and lighting systems. Fuel storage specialists assemble massive bladders capable of holding thousands of gallons of aviation gasoline. Radio operators erect antenna array. Medical corpsmen set up aid stations. Every specialty works simultaneously, their tasks overlapping in controlled chaos that somehow produces order. By nightfall on day one, floodlights illuminate the construction site. The work never stops. Night shifts take over from day shifts with barely a pause. Machines refuel and continue. The jungle echoes with the sound of American industry transplanted to the tropical Pacific. Japanese observation posts in the hills report back to their headquarters with increasingly frantic messages. Construction continues through darkness. Estimate 400 vehicles and machines operating continuously. Impossible to determine completion timeline as work proceeds beyond normal engineering parameters. The numbers tell the story. The statistics of Seabee construction capability read like fiction. During the course of the Pacific War, approximately 325,000 men served in the naval construction battalions. They built 111 major airstrips, 441 piers and wharves, 2,558 ammunition magazines, 700 square blocks of warehouses, hospitals with 70,000 beds, tanks for storage of 100 million gallons of gasoline, and housing for 1.5 million men. They lay 5,000 miles of road and lay 50,000 miles of pipe for water, sewage, and fuel distribution. But raw numbers don't capture the speed. On Tinian Island, Seabees construct the largest airfield complex in the world in under 3 months, a facility that will serve as the launching point for the atomic bomb missions that end the war. The main runway on Tinian stretches 8,500 feet long and 200 feet wide, capable of handling the massive B-29 Superfortress bombers. Japanese engineers estimate such a runway would require 18 months to construct. The Seabees complete it in 63 days. At Subic Bay, in the Philippines, the Seabee Battalion constructs a floating dry dock capable of servicing damaged warships. Construction time, 12 days. Normal peacetime estimate, 6 months. On Okinawa, under constant Japanese artillery fire and kamikaze attacks. Seabees repair bomb-cratered runways faster than Japanese forces can destroy them. Bombs hit the runway at night. By dawn, the craters are filled and aircraft are taking off again. Japanese commanders conclude that the Americans must be using some form of prefabricated runway sections. They cannot conceive of any other explanation for such speed. The secret isn't magical technology. It's machinery, training, an absolute refusal to accept that anything is impossible. Day 2, the impossible accelerates. March 16, 1944. Dawn on Emirau Island reveals a landscape transformed. The main runway is 70% complete. Its crushed coral surface already hard enough to support heavy vehicles. Taxiways branch off to dispersal areas being carved from the jungle. A control tower prefabricated, shipped in sections, and assembled like a giant model Catrices beside the runway. Seabolt stands in what will become the operations center, reviewing the schedule. Aircraft are expected in 36 hours. The tower needs communications, equipment. The runway needs final grading and compaction. Revetments need to be built to protect parked aircraft from bomb splinters and strafing. Fuel lines need to be connected. The ammunition dumped needs to be completed and stocked. It's an impossible amount of work. He doesn't consider failure. The Seabees have a motto born in these desperate Pacific construction projects: the difficult we do immediately. The impossible takes a little longer. It's not bravado, it's a statement of fact proven on dozens of islands across the Pacific. The men understand what's at stake. Every day this airfield becomes operational is a day that Marine Corsairs and Navy Hellcats can provide closer support to forces fighting across the Bismarck Archipelago. Every hour of delay means soldiers and Marines fighting without adequate air cover. The Seabees don't talk about it, they just work faster. Specialized teams handle final preparations. Aviation facilities specialists install refueling equipment and ammunition hoists. Communications, technicians, string wire and test radio systems. The medical battalion sets up a field hospital, knowing that combat aircraft return damaged and wounded. Even the mess crews work at double speed, knowing that hungry men work slower. By noon on day 2, something remarkable happens. A Navy photographer documenting the construction captures the moment a Seabee bulldozer operator, covered in mud from a tropical downpour, climbs down from his machine for a cigarette break. Behind him, the completed runway stretches nearly a mile. The photograph will become iconic one man, one machine, and the physical manifestation of American industrial might. Japanese intelligence struggles to comprehend in Rabaul, the major Japanese base 200 miles from Emirau. Intelligence officers face a crisis of credibility. Their reconnaissance photographs clearly show a completed airfield on Emirau where virgin jungle stood 48 hours ago. Their analysts insist the photographs must be mislabeled, perhaps showing different islands or taken weeks apart. Commander Hideaki Matsumoto, responsible for enemy capability assessment, writes in his daily intelligence summary, "If American reports are accurate regarding construction timeline, then we must fundamentally reassess enemy engineering capabilities. Our own construction doctrines assume 6 months for a major airfield. Enemy appears to operate under different physical laws. The implications terrify Japanese strategists. Their entire defensive strategy for the Pacific depends on the assumption that American forces will need months to establish air bases after capturing islands. This assumption allows Japanese forces time to reinforce threatened areas, to fortify defensive positions, to bring in supplies and ammunition. If Americans can build airfields in days instead of months, then Japan's defensive perimeter collapses. The enemy can leap forward faster than Japanese forces can react." Some Japanese officers refuse to believe the intelligence. They insist it must be deception that Americans are constructing fake airfields to draw Japanese attacks away from real construction projects. This belief costs them dearly. When they finally launch an air raid against Emirau Island on March 18th, expecting to catch construction crews and destroy half-built facilities, they instead encounter fully operational fighter squadrons that tear through their bomber formation. R-47, mission accomplished, March 17th, 1944, 1700 hours. 47 hours after the first landing craft touched sand. Commander Seabolt radios Fleet Headquarters, Emirau Airfield operational, ready to receive aircraft. The first planes land an hour later. Corsair fighters that will use Emirau as a forward operating base. The pilots, expecting a rough coral strip requiring careful approach, are shocked to find a runway that feels as smooth as many stateside training bases. They taxi to revetments where fuel trucks already wait, where ammunition is stacked and ready, where mechanics have tools and parts organized. One Marine pilot, Captain James Hawk Morrison writes in his diary. Landed on what should be virgin jungle. Instead found a complete airbase with everything from fuel to hot These Seabee characters work like they're possessed. Makes me ashamed of ever complaining about long hours. For the Seabees, there's no celebration. The airfield is operational, but not complete. They continue working, expanding facilities, improving drainage, constructing permanent buildings to replace temporary structures. They'll work on Emirau for another 6 weeks, continuously improving and expanding until the base can support 200 aircraft and 3,000 personnel. But the impossible part is done. An island that was trackless jungle 90xx hours ago now serves as a crucial link in the air campaign that will strangle Japanese forces across the Pacific. The technology and techniques what made such speed possible. The answer lies in a combination of innovative equipment, novel techniques, and an absolute focus on practical results over perfect execution. The Seabees pioneered the use of Marston-Matner locking steel planking that could create an instant runway surface over almost any terrain. Each mat section weighs approximately 65 pounds and connects to its neighbors with simple interlocking edges. A crew of 20 men can lay 500 feet of runway in a single day. Marston mat isn't pretty, it's loud, rattles constantly, and tears up aircraft tires faster than concrete, but it works immediately. And that's all that matters. They developed specialized coral crushing equipment that can process native coral into excellent paving material. The Pacific Islands are built on coral reef foundations, providing unlimited building material if you can process it fast enough. Seabee crushers, modified from commercial rock crushing equipment, can produce enough crushed coral in 1 hour to pave 50 feet of runway. They created prefabricated building systems that reduce construction time by 90%. The famous Quonset that half-cylinder building recognizable to anyone who's seen. World War II movies can be erected by 6 men in 4 hours. It's not comfortable, not particularly weather-tight, and not architecturally interesting. But it provides covered workspace, storage, or housing immediately. And that's the only metric that matters in a combat zone. Perhaps most importantly, they abandoned peacetime construction. In a normal construction project, engineers design, supervisors plan, and workers execute. This creates layers of approval and delay. The Seabees flatten this hierarchy. Battalion commanders give overall objectives. I need a runway here by Thursday, and then step back. Foremen and equipment operators make real-time decisions about how to achieve those objectives. If a bulldozer operator encounters unexpected rock, he doesn't wait for an engineer's soil report, he blasts it, pushes it aside, or builds over it. Decisions happen at the speed of work, not the speed of paperwork. The human cost, this speed, comes with a price. Seabee casualty rates, while lower than infantry units, are significant. Over 270 Seabees are killed in action during the Pacific War, with thousands more wounded. They work in combat zones, often under fire, and their large, slow-moving equipment makes excellent targets for enemy aircraft and artillery. On Emirau, the Seabees, our lucky Japanese forces never mount a serious counter. But on other islands, the story is different. On Guadalcanal, Seabees work on Henderson Field under Daily Japé's artillery bombardment. On Peleliu, they land with marine assault waves and begin airfield repairs while the battle still rages around them. On Saipan, Japanese infiltrators target construction equipment and fuel dumps, forcing Seabees to fight as infantry while trying to maintain their construction schedule. The work itself is dangerous. Heavy equipment operated at maximum speed in rough terrain causes accidents. Tropical diseases, malaria, dengue, fever, dysentery ravage construction battalions. Heat exhaustion is constant. Men working 12-hour shifts in 100-degree heat with near total humidity collapse regularly, yet morale remains remarkably high. The Seabees can see the results of their work. When aircraft take off from runways they built, when wounded soldiers receive treatment in hospitals they constructed, when supply ships unloaded piers they erected, the value of their sacrifice is immediate and tangible. Chief Petty Officer Robert Red Callahan, a bulldozer operator who works on 15 Pacific airfields during the war, later reflects, "We knew guys were dying because they didn't have air support close enough. Every hour we saved meant aircraft got there sooner." That's not abstract, that's Marines pinned down on a beach who live instead of die because fighters can cover them. You don't feel tired when you're thinking about that. The ripple effect, the ability to construct airfields at incredible speed, fundamentally changes Allied strategy in the Pacific. The original American plan for defeating Japan involves a slow, methodical advance, capturing major islands, and building substantial bases before moving forward. Each step is supposed to take months. The Seabees change that calculus. Admiral Chesser Nimitz, commander of Pacific Forces, realizes he can conduct island-hopping campaigns that bypass heavily defended Japanese strongholds. Instead of assaulting and capturing every Japanese base, American forces can seize lightly defended islands nearby, build airfields faster than Japanese forces can react, and use air power to neutralize Japanese bases without ever attacking them directly. This strategy saves tens of thousands of American lives. Japanese garrisons on bypassed islands become irrelevant, cut off from supplies and reinforcements, unable to threaten Allied operations. They pose no danger and receive no glory, just slow starvation and irrelevance as the war moves past them. The psychological impact on Japanese forces is devastating. They watch American bases appear seemingly overnight. They launch attacks expecting to catch construction crews and instead encounter fully operational fighter squadrons. They see their own carefully constructed defensive positions become worthless as American air power operates from bases that shouldn't exist yet. Japanese war diaries from this period repeatedly express shock and demoralization. One Japanese officer captured on Saipan tells interrogators, "We were told American forces were slow, cautious, dependent on overwhelming material superiority. We were told we could match American spirit with Japanese determination. No one told us they could build faster than we could destroy. How do you fight an enemy who performs miracles?" The final tally by war's end, Seabee construction achievements read like the work of decades compressed into 4 years. They construct 6 major fleet bases, each equivalent to a major American city in complexity. They build ports capable of handling 10,000 tons of cargo per day on islands that had never seen a ship larger than a fishing boat. They create road networks in jungles where no roads existed. They literally reshape geography, flattening hills, filling valleys, and creating land from the ocean through massive landfill projects. The famous photograph of the B-29, Enola Gay taken off to drop the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, shows the aircraft on a runway built by Seabees on Tinian Island. The mission that ends the war launches from infrastructure that didn't exist 3 months before the flight. General Douglas MacArthur, not known for praising anyone outside the army, states, "The Seabees have built every airfield from which my aircraft operate. They have constructed every port through which my supplies flow. Without them, there is no Pacific campaign. Without them, there is no victory." Admiral Nimitz is more succinct. The Seabees built the Pacific War. Legacy and lessons. Emirau Island returns to jungle after the war. The airfield, so desperately constructed in March 1944, is abandoned in 1945. Today, little remains except overgrown runways slowly being reclaimed by tropical vegetation. The island sees perhaps a dozen visitors per war buffs and the occasional descendant of men who work there. But the lessons of Emirau and countless other Seabee projects echo through modern military doctrine. The principle that mobility and speed trump perfect preparation is now fundamental to American military planning. The idea that construction capability is a combat multiplier, as important as firepower, is accepted wisdom. The Seabees themselves remain a vital part of the U.S. Navy, deploying to every conflict and crisis, still building impossible things on impossible schedules. The Japanese understood too late what they faced. By the time their intelligence analysts accepted that American construction speed was real, not propaganda, the strategic situation was already hopeless. American airfields encircled their defensive perimeter. American bases supported offenses that moved faster than Japanese forces could react. American construction capability had become a weapon as powerful as any battleship or bomber. In the end, the Pacific War was won by many factors: industrial capacity, code-breaking intelligence, naval superiority, air power, and the courage of men in combat. But underlying all of it was the ability to project that power forward, to create bases and airfields and ports where none existed, to build the infrastructure of victory faster than the enemy could comprehend. The Seabees didn't win the war with bulldozers and cement mixers. They won it by understanding that in modern warfare, time is the ultimate resource. That good enough now beats perfect later. That sometimes the most important weapon isn't the one that destroys the enemy, but the one that builds a platform from which all other weapons operate. Lieutenant Commander Seabolt standing on Emirau Island watching the 50th aircraft take off from his 48-hour runway. understands this instinctively. He doesn't think about grand strategy or historical legacy. He thinks about the next island, the next impossible deadline, the next construction miracle his men will somehow achieve. Because in the Pacific, the war moves at the speed of a bulldozer blade pushing through jungle, and the Seabees have proven, beyond any doubt, that no one pushes faster.